Hi everyone, we're Mimicker, here to introduce all kinds of knowledge, even the stuff we didn't know about. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a profession absolutely central to helping people reclaim their lives, occupational therapy, or simply OT. We've gathered some truly insightful source material, a really comprehensive analysis of the field, and our mission today is to pull out the most important nuggets. And we're especially focusing on its unique role and evolving development right here in Taiwan. You know, it's for the situation of occupational therapists in Taiwan.
Yeah, and what's fascinating about occupational therapy, I think, and often misunderstood, is its core value. A lot of people might have a vague idea about therapists in general, but OT isn't just about, say, physical recovery or fixing a specific problem. It's fundamentally about enabling participation. Participation in all those meaningful activities that give our lives purpose and meaning.
Okay, enabling participation. To really bring that to life, let's maybe start with that powerful story from our sources. Imagine a 70-year-old calligrapher. After a stroke, he loses the use of his dominant right hand. Terrible thing. Now, a physical therapist steps in, quite rightly, to help him regain basic mobility, things like standing up, walking around.
Essential functions.
Exactly. But then he gets home and he looks at his ink, his brush, his paper. And he just feels this profound sense of loss because he can't create anymore. He can't do the thing he loves. And this is where an occupational therapist comes in, right?
Precisely. That's the perfect illustration. The OT doesn't just focus on, strengthening individual finger muscles in isolation. That might be part of it, but it's not the main goal. Instead, they work with him. They analyze the occupation of calligraphy itself, every single step, from how you grind the ink to the specific way he holds the brush. They might even adapt the brush handle, make it easier to grip.
So really practical, task-focused stuff.
Exactly. And their shared goal isn't some abstract clinical measure like increase finger flexion by 10 degrees. It's incredibly concrete. It's deeply meaningful. I want to be able to personally write a Spring Festival couplet for my grandson. You feel the difference there.
Absolutely. That's incredibly powerful. It's not just about the hand. It's about being a grandfather, being a calligrapher.
Yes. When he finally completes those characters, he's not just recovered some motor function. He's reclaimed his role, his identity, a fundamental part of what makes his life meaningful.
That story truly illuminates the unique, person-centered focus of OT. So, as we delve into this often misunderstood field, especially thinking about occupational therapists here in Taiwan, what's the ultimate takeaway we should have about that word occupation itself? Because it trips people up.
It really does. It's crucial because when we hear occupational therapy, so many people immediately think jobs, like employment.
Yeah, finding work.
But our sources clearly define occupation much, much more broadly than that. The World Federation of Occupational Therapists, the WFOT, they clarify it. They say occupation is about promoting health and well-being by supporting participation in meaningful activities. Activities people want to do, need to do, or are expected to do in their lives.
Want, need, or expected to do.
Okay. Yeah, so it spans everything. Basic self-care like getting dressed, brushing your teeth, productivity, which can include work or school, yes, but also leisure, things like gardening, playing music, socializing with friends. It's truly about how we occupy our time and find meaning in every aspect of our lives.
That distinction really clears things up. It's about living, not just working. And what's fascinating looking at the history you mentioned is how this profession, with such a broad and humanistic view, isn't some modern invention. Its roots stretch way back, fueled by some really humanitarian ideals. How did that rich history unfold? Where did it start?
It's true. The philosophy runs deep. We're talking about the 18th century, the era of moral treatment. You had pioneers like Philippe Tinel in France and William Tuke in England, who founded the York Retreat. These were revolutionary places back then. They believed that purposefully engaging patients, people who were often locked away in daily work, leisure, and social activities, could actually stabilize their emotions and promote recovery.
So it wasn't just about keeping them busy. It was therapeutic in itself.
Absolutely. That's the crucial point. It was a deep philosophical foundation for OT, emphasizing human dignity, purposeful engagement, long before the term occupational therapy even existed. It valued the person.
And then moving into the 19th century, you had the arts and crafts movement. How did that fit in, that focus on, making things by hand?
Yeah, that movement reinforced this idea that creating with your hands was inherently good for both mind and body. It connected physical activity with mental well-being. You had figures like Dr. Herbert Hall in the U.S. proposing the work cure. He used activities like pottery, weaving, carpentry for patients with conditions like neurasthenia, what we might think of as stress or burnout today.
A work cure.
Interesting term. And concurrently, Benjamin Rush, often called the father of American psychiatry, he advocated for engaging mental patients in activities like gardening or farm work. So crafts and daily labor became recognized therapeutic mediums, not just diversions, but actual tools for healing and structuring life.
Okay, so we have these philosophical roots in moral treatment and then the practical application through things like crafts and work cures. It sounds like a gradual evolution of ideas. But what was the real catalyst? What pushed OT into becoming the formal profession we recognize today?
That catalyst, without a doubt, was World War I. The sheer scale of it, the number of soldiers returning with devastating physical injuries and profound psychological trauma, shell shock, as they called it then.
Unprecedented numbers.
Exactly. It created this massive, unprecedented demand for rehabilitation services. The U.S. government actually dispatched what they called occupational therapy reconstructive aides right to the front lines in Europe.
Wow, right into the war zones.
Yes. And this was a critical turning point. It significantly shifted OT's focus. Before, it was heavily weighted towards psychiatric patients. Now, it had to address severe physical disabilities on a huge scale. And it moved beyond just static handicrafts toward more function-oriented training, focusing on activities of daily living, or ADLs as we call them now, helping soldiers learn to feed themselves again, dress themselves, basic survival skills.
And that surging demand, that government involvement, must have pushed for some kind of formal structure, right?
Yeah.
How did the profession actually organize itself?
It absolutely did. Things happened quickly then. March 15th, 1917, that's a date to remember in OT history, it was the founding of the National Society for the Promotion of Occupational Therapy, NSPOT.
NSPOT.
Which later evolved into the American Occupational Therapy Association, AOTA, which is still the main body in the U.S., and key figures emerged. People like psychiatrist Dr. William Rush Dutton Jr., often called the father of occupational therapy, and Eleanor Clark Slagle, a social worker known as the mother of occupational therapy. Slagle was incredibly influential. She pioneered habit training, a systematic approach to re-engaging patients in routines, and she established the very first professional school for OTs.
So real pioneers laying the groundwork for education and practice.
Definitely. And then to solidify its global reach, the World Federation of Occupational Therapists, WFOT, was established later in 1956 to promote the profession and set standards worldwide.
Okay, so we've traced this rich global history, from philosophical roots to wartime necessity and formal organization. Let's bring this conversation back home now. How did these principles, this profession, actually take root and evolve here in the unique cultural and historical context of Taiwan?
Yeah, Taiwan's journey is a really fascinating example of importation, adaptation, and localization. It wasn't just a copy-paste job. We can trace its earliest forms back to craft therapy being used in psychiatric institutions around 1945, right after Taiwan's retrocession. It was a fairly humble beginning, often led by nurses, but it laid a kind of philosophical groundwork.
Just crafts initially.
Largely, yes, in those early psychiatric settings. But a really significant milestone for developing OT as a distinct service came in 1956.
Ah, that was the establishment of the Work Therapy Department, the National Taiwan University Hospital, NTUH.
Right. Exactly. That was Taiwan's first dedicated OT unit within a major medical system, a huge step. But in those early days, there was a real lack of locally trained professionals, so the practitioners were often nursing graduates who received specific training from foreign consultants, notably people sent by the World Health Organization, the WHO.
So initial expertise came from abroad. And I understand there was an important discussion, even a change, around the name of the profession itself in Taiwan. That seems significant.
Absolutely crucial. The early term used was wo yu ze ziliao. Now, this literally translates to something like work therapy or activity therapy. And the problem was, it was easily misunderstood. People thought it just meant arranging tasks or keeping patients busy.
Like just giving them something to do.
Precisely. It didn't capture that deeper core spirit we talk about, using meaningful occupations to restore function and meaning to a person's whole life. So, gradually, the title was standardized to Zin, Ziming Ziliao. This translates more closely to occupational therapy, or perhaps functional therapy. The Z implies role or position, and Ning implies ability or function.
Ah, okay. So Zining Ziliao, better captures that idea of enabling life roles and abilities.
Exactly. That semantic shift was really vital for solidifying the profession's unique identity and philosophy within the Taiwanese healthcare system and for the public.
And then the development of local education must have been a major turning point. When did Taiwan start training its own OTs?
It was. A pivotal moment came in 1970. That's when National Taiwan University's College of Medicine established an occupational therapy division within its School of Rehabilitation Medicine. This marked the beginning of systematic local professional training. It provided that solid, long-term foundation the profession needed to truly grow and flourish indigenously in Taiwan.
Building local capacity. And that educational foundation, I assume, naturally led towards formal professional recognition and regulation.
Correct. The steps followed logically. The Taiwan Occupational Therapy Association, 2OTA, was founded in 1982, giving the profession a unified voice. Then, a really huge step forward came in 1997 with the passing of the Occupational Therapist Act. This was the legal framework.
Like a legal recognition.
Yes, and it was followed by the first national licensing examination in 1998. Holding that first exam, that really symbolized Taiwan's OT development entering a mature stage, legalized, professionalized, and truly localized. Now, reflecting on this journey, our sources do highlight some, let's say, inherent tensions that came up along the way. For instance, there's been this complex push and pull. On one hand, you have OT's humanistic origins that focus on meaning and occupation we discussed. On the other, you have the dominant biomedical model, especially as OT sought recognition within Taiwan's very structured medical system.
Trying to fit into the existing medical structure.
Right. And to fit in, OT sometimes had to adopt a more scientific, quantifiable framework. Measure things, prove effectiveness in ways that aligned with medicine. Some commentators describe this as a kind of domestication by biomedicine, which occasionally meant that traditional craft activities, for example, got a bit marginalized because their therapeutic effects were harder to quantify with numbers.
So a tension between the art and the science of OT.
Exactly. It sparked a philosophical struggle within the profession itself. Is OT primarily about the art of meaningful occupation, that qualitative experience, or is it about the science of measurable outcomes fitting into that medical evidence base? It's an ongoing dialogue, really.
That's a fascinating tension. And it sounds like there were cultural tensions, too, didn't you mention? Especially with importing theories developed mostly in the West. How did that play out in Taiwan?
That's another crucial layer. Occupational therapy largely developed in Western cultures, North America, Europe, Australia. These cultures tend to emphasize individualism, independence, personal autonomy quite strongly.
Right, very much focused on the individual achieving independence.
Precisely. But when you directly transplant these models into Asian cultures like Taiwan, which often place a higher value on, say, collective harmony, family roles, interdependence, conflicts can arise. For example, a standard Western OP goal might be achieving complete independence and self-care after an injury. But for an elder in Taiwan, maybe being able to help care for their grandchildren, even if they still need some help themselves, might be far more meaningful. It reflects their vital family role.
That makes perfect sense. The definition of a meaningful occupation might differ significantly.
It can. And research actually points out that Taiwanese therapists sometimes feel a sense of awkwardness or disconnect when trying to directly apply Western textbook theories in their clinical practice. It highlights a real ongoing need for deep cultural translation, adaptation, and maybe even developing new, locally relevant theories and assessment tools to ensure OT truly takes root and effectively serves the specific needs and values of the Taiwanese population.
That's such an important point, the need for cultural resonance, not just direct translation. Okay, so we understand the philosophy, the rich history, and the unique journey of OT here in Taiwan, including those tensions. But for you listening, what do occupational therapists actually do on a day-to-day basis? What are their core practice areas, both in Taiwan and globally?
Right, let's get practical. While that core philosophy of promoting participation through occupation is the constant thread, traditionally, OT practice is often divided into three main areas, though the lines can blur, of course. First, there's physical dysfunction. This is probably what many people think of first. It serves individuals recovering from a huge range of physical impairments.
Like stroke survivors.
Yes, stroke, but also traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, fractures, burns, conditions like Parkinson's disease, amputations. The list is long. The overarching goal here is to restore independent function for managing at home, returning to work if possible, participating in the community.
And how do they do that? What kinds of methods?
It's varied. It includes things like functional activity training, using real tasks to improve strength, coordination, endurance. Then there's activities of daily living, ADL training. This is a cornerstone. It involves breaking down essential tasks like dressing, bathing, cooking into manageable steps and finding ways for the person to do them, maybe with adaptations. OTs are also experts in assessing for, designing, sometimes even fabricating, and training people to use splints and various assistive devices, think specialized eating utensils, dressing aids, wheelchairs. And finally, environmental modifications. That could be recommending grab bars in the bathroom, suggesting ramps, rearranging furniture for safety, or teaching work simplification techniques to conserve energy.
Okay, that's the physical side. What's the second area?
The second major area is pediatrics, working with children. And here, the child's primary occupations are, well, play and learning.
Play as an occupation.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's fundamental. So pediatric OTs embed therapeutic goals into fun, game-like situations. They call it therapy and play. It has to be motivating for the child. Services here include things like sensory integration or SI therapy. This was developed by Dr. A. Jean Ayres. It often uses specialized equipment like swings, therapy balls, textured materials to help children process sensory input from their environment more effectively.
Oh, I've heard of sensory integration for kids who might be over or undersensitive to things.
Exactly. It helps their brain organize sensory information. OTs also work on motor skill development, both gross motor, like balance and coordination, and fine motor, like handwriting or using scissors, plus cognitive and perceptual training, self-care skills like dressing or feeding themselves, social skills, and crucially, they collaborate very closely with families and schools to support the child's development in all settings.
Okay, physical, pediatrics, what's the third main area?
And finally, there's mental health. This area really connects back to OT's historical roots in moral treatment. It serves individuals with conditions like schizophrenia, mood disorders like depression or bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders, dementia, and others. Now, the goal here typically isn't to cure the underlying illness itself. That's more the role of psychiatry and medication. OT's role is to use purposeful activity to help stabilize symptoms.
Purposeful activity again.
Yes, to help individuals reestablish a structured daily life, manage their time, cope with symptoms, and regain a sense of control and self-worth. Interventions can range from therapeutic activity groups, maybe using crafts, art, cooking, or gardening. Here, the activity itself is the medium for therapy, not the end goal. It helps with social interaction, following directions, expressing oneself. They also do daily living skills training, time management, money management. Vocational rehabilitation is big here too. Pre-vocational training, supported employment, helping people get back into or stay in work, and exploring leisure interests.
That's an incredibly diverse range of applications, from tiny babies to older adults, physical issues to mental health. It really shows how holistic the approach aims to be. And in Taiwan, all of this practice is governed by law, right? You mentioned the Occupational Therapist Act. What does that legal framework mean for how OTs actually practice here?
Yes, the legal framework is key. Taiwan's Occupational Therapist Act from 1997 explicitly defines the scope of practice. Article 2, for instance, is fundamental. It requires national certification to practice. You need to pass the exam.
Ensures professional standards.
Exactly. And most importantly, for daily practice, Article 12 lists 8 major business scopes, 8 areas where OTs are legally permitted to work. These cover assessment, therapy, consultation, assistive devices, environmental modification, etc., across those areas we just discussed: physical, pediatric, mental health.
Okay. And I remember you mentioned there's a fascinating nuance in that Article 12, something that really empowers OTs to work beyond the traditional hospital setting. That seems particularly relevant for the growth of the profession in Taiwan.
Yeah, precisely. This is a really important point in the Taiwanese context. While a physician's diagnosis or referral is generally required for services aimed at disease treatment within the traditional medical system, the Act cleverly states this requirement doesn't apply. Listen to this. When the purpose is not disease treatment.
When the purpose is not disease treatment. So what does that allow them to do?
This is huge. It means OTs in Taiwan can legally offer services focused on health promotion, disease prevention, functional maintenance, or general consultation without needing a doctor-specific order or referral for that service. Think about ergonomic advice for a company to prevent workplace injuries, or fall prevention programs for healthy seniors in the community, or consulting with schools on classroom environments.
Right, proactive, preventative stuff.
Exactly. This provides a crucial legal foundation for OTs in Taiwan to work proactively in communities, in schools, in workplaces. And it allows them to develop independent, self-pay service markets, really expanding their reach far beyond just treating diagnosed conditions in a hospital or clinic.
That's a really powerful legal basis for expansion. And what's fascinating, looking at the current landscape, is how occupational therapy in Taiwan is actively crossing these traditional boundaries. They seem to be really fulfilling that broader legal scope by moving into new settings. How is this shift playing out, this move from a purely medical model towards more of a community model?
It's a definite trend, a profound shift happening globally and certainly here in Taiwan. The profession is moving from a model primarily focused on treating illness after it occurs towards one emphasizing prevention and health promotion within the community. For example, OTs are increasingly entering the community and the home. This is absolutely critical for Taiwan, given its rapidly aging society.
The aging population is a huge factor here.
Huge. So OT directly supports the government's goal of aging in place, helping seniors live safely and meaningfully in their own homes for as long as possible. OTs go into homes, conduct safety assessments, identify fall risks, poor lighting, rugs, lack of grab bars. They suggest practical modifications. They design personalized fall prevention exercise plans. They recommend appropriate assistive devices. And crucially, it's not just about safety. It's about helping seniors maintain their quality of life and dignity by finding ways to continue engaging in meaningful activities, whether that's hobbies at home or participating in community events.
This sounds absolutely essential for Taiwan's demographic future, supporting seniors in the community. But are there challenges to this expansion, even with government initiatives like the Long-Term Care 2.0 plan valuing OT?
Yes, there are significant challenges. While Taiwan's Long-Term Care 2.0 plan definitely recognizes and includes OT services, our sources consistently point out a major bottleneck: the reimbursement system. The current national health insurance system still largely favors services provided within established medical institutions, like hospitals and clinics.
The funding follows the old model.
To a large extent, yes. This means there's often limited or inconsistent financial support for these vital preventative and supportive OT services happening out in the community or in people's homes. It restricts their full development and accessibility compared to how community OT operates in some Western countries with different funding models. It's a significant area needing future policy advocacy and reform here in Taiwan.
Okay, funding hurdles for community care. What about other expanding areas? You mentioned schools earlier.
Yes, supporting learning and growth in schools is another vital and growing area. OTs work with students, particularly those with special educational needs, to help them participate effectively in their most important occupation, simply being a student. In Taiwan, OTs are mandated and integral members of special education teams within the school system. They work very collaboratively with teachers, parents, and other professionals.
How does that work? Do they pull kids out of class for therapy?
Sometimes, but increasingly, they use what's called a collaborative consultation and inclusive model. This often means working indirectly, coaching teachers on classroom strategies, advising parents on home activities, adapting the environment rather than always pulling students out for separate one-on-one therapy. The goal is to support the child within their natural learning environment. Services include conducting assessments for crafting individualized education programs, or IEPs, recommending environmental modifications like specialized seating or ways to reduce classroom distractions, providing assistive technology like pencil grips or weighted vests, and direct training for skills like fine motor coordination, visual perception for reading, or social interaction strategies.
So, school-based OT in Taiwan is clearly vital for inclusion. But I imagine it faces its own unique hurdles within the education system.
It definitely does. Our sources mention several challenges. One is simply resources, often scarce and scattered service hours. An OT might have to cover multiple schools across a wide area, leading to lots of travel time and limited contact hours per student.
Stretching resources thin.
Yes. There's also often extensive administrative paperwork and reporting requirements, which eats into valuable direct service or consultation time. And perhaps a deeper challenge is a lingering public or even school staff perception. Sometimes OTs are still seen as someone who comes in to fix a specific problem in a child, rather than fully understanding their broader consultative and supportive role within the whole educational system, a role focused on enabling participation and learning for all students.
Right, changing that perception takes time. What else? Ergonomics.
Yes, optimizing work and life through ergonomics. This is a natural fit for OTs because of their deep understanding of the interplay between the person, their environment, and the occupation or task they're performing. We call it the PEO model. So ergonomics for an OT isn't just about recommending an ergonomic chair. It's a systematic analysis to optimize the fit between the worker, their specific job tasks, and the physical and organizational environment.
PEO. Person, environment, occupation. Makes sense.
Exactly. This applies broadly. Office ergonomics looking at workstation setup, posture, workflow. Industrial ergonomics analyzing manual handling tasks, recommending safe lifting techniques, designing work rotation schedules to prevent repetitive strain. And it even extends to home ergonomics, modifying kitchens for seniors, setting up a safe home workspace, adapting tools for gardening with arthritis. It's about making any environment support the person's activities.
Very practical. And technology must be playing a bigger role now, too.
Absolutely. The empowerment of technology is really opening new frontiers for OT practice. We're seeing significant advancements, particularly with telehealth and also in specialized areas like driving assessment. Telehealth or telerehabilitation was really catalyzed and accelerated by the recent pandemic, obviously. It allows OTs to provide assessments, consultations, and even some treatment remotely using video conferencing.
What are the main advantages there?
Big advantages include vastly increased accessibility, especially for people in remote or rural areas of Taiwan, or for those who have mobility issues making it hard to get to a clinic. There's greater scheduling flexibility. And a unique benefit is the OT can actually see the client's real home environment through the camera, which can be invaluable for suggesting relevant modifications or strategies.
But there must be downsides, too.
Oh, for sure. Challenges include the obvious technical glitches, internet connection issues, comfort with technology. A big one is the inability to provide direct hands-on guidance or physical assistance when needed. And some find it harder to build that therapeutic rapport, that connection, through a screen compared to face-to-face. Often, a hybrid model works best, maybe an initial in-person assessment, then follow-ups via telehealth.
A mix-and-match approach.
Exactly. And interestingly, some research suggests that certain clients, like some children with autism spectrum disorder, might actually benefit from telehealth because the reduced direct social pressure can lower their anxiety. So it's nuanced.
That's an unexpected potential benefit. And driving assessment. How does OT fit in there?
Right, driving assessment. Driving is such a crucial instrumental activity of daily living, or IADL for independence, community access, work, participation in life. But after an injury, illness, or with aging, driving ability can be affected. OTs with specialized training conduct rigorous two-stage assessments to evaluate fitness to drive.
2 stages.
Yes. First, there's an off-road assessment. This happens in the clinic and evaluates crucial underlying skills. Vision, physical abilities like strength and reaction time, and cognitive skills like attention, memory, and judgment needed for driving. If the off-road part looks okay, then comes the on-road assessment. This is done in a real car, often dual-controlled, with a specialized driving instructor present, while the OT observes and assesses driving performance in actual traffic situations.
Wow, that sounds very thorough.
It has to be. Based on both assessments, the OT then compiles a professional report with recommendations for the referring physician and sometimes directly to the motor vehicle licensing authority. Recommendations might be fit to drive with vehicle modifications like hand controls, needs driving restrictions like daytime only or local area only, or currently unfit to drive, perhaps with suggestions for driving cessation counseling or alternative transport options. It's all about balancing independence with public safety.
That's incredibly comprehensive work.
Mm.
Okay, moving towards wrapping up some core ideas.
Yeah.
We need to address what must be the most common question OTs get asked. What's the difference between occupational therapy and physical therapy? Our sources offered a great analogy I liked. Physical therapy, PT, teaches you how to walk to the door, while occupational therapy, OT, teaches you how to open the door and walk through it to live your life. Can you unpack that distinction a bit more?
That analogy really does capture the fundamental philosophical difference beautifully. The core distinction isn't just about which body part they treat, it's about the focus. It's between how you move and why you move and what you ultimately do with that movement. Physical therapists, or PTs, are truly the experts in movement. Their primary focus is on treating the body's impairment itself, the muscle weakness, the joint stiffness, the pain to restore more normal physical function. They use tools like therapeutic exercise, manual therapy, heat, cold, electrical stimulation.
Okay, focused on the body's mechanics, restoring movement potential.
Exactly. Now, an occupational therapist, by contrast, is more like an expert in living. They see the person holistically as an occupational being who needs and wants to fulfill various life roles and engage in meaningful activities. Their ultimate goal isn't just restoring physical function and isolation, but enabling the person to participate meaningfully in all aspects of their life. They use the activity itself, the occupation, as the primary therapeutic medium.
Can you give an example of that difference in praxis?
Sure, let's take someone with a shoulder injury again. A PT might focus heavily on specific exercises to increase the shoulder's range of motion and strength, the biomechanics, essential work. An OT working alongside the PT would then ask, okay, now that you have more movement, what does this patient need or want to do with that shoulder in their daily life? Are they a chef who needs to chop vegetables? A parent who needs to lift their child? A student needing to carry books? The OT helps them apply that restored function directly to those specific, meaningful, real-life tasks, maybe adapting the task or the environment if needed.
So PT builds the capacity, OT helps use that capacity in real life.
That's a great way to put it. They're truly complementary partners. Both are essential for comprehensive rehabilitation, but they approach it from slightly different, though overlapping, perspectives.
That distinction is so clear now. Thanks. Beyond that common question, our sources highlighted other frequent misunderstandings or myths about occupational therapy. Let's maybe quickly debunk a few of those for our listeners.
Absolutely. Happy to clarify. Myth 1, occupational therapy is only about helping people find a job.
Most common one.
Fact. Yes, definitely the most common literal misinterpretation. As we've hammered home, occupation in OT means all the meaningful activities that occupy our time: self-care, learning, play, socializing, and productivity, which includes work. While OTs absolutely do provide vocational rehabilitation, helping people return to or find suitable work, their core goal is much, much broader, empowering clients to participate fully in all the life activities that give them purpose.
Got it. Not just jobs. What's another one?
Myth 2. Occupational therapy is only for the elderly or people with significant disabilities. Fact. Not at all. OT services span the entire human life cycle. We work with newborns who have developmental delays, toddlers learning to play, school-aged children with learning difficulties or ADHD, adults recovering from accidents, injuries, or mental health challenges, right through to seniors working on fall prevention or adapting to age-related changes. Anyone at any age who is struggling with performing their daily activities due to physical, psychological, developmental, or even environmental factors can potentially benefit from OT. It's truly cradle to grave.
So really broad age range. What about the kid stuff?
Myth 3, pediatric occupational therapy is just playing.
Yes. Looks like fun and games.
Fact. Well, it should look like fun. Because for children, play is their most important occupation. It's how they learn, develop skills, explore their world, and interact socially. OTs strategically use play as a sophisticated scientific therapeutic medium. What looks like simple fun is actually carefully designed and graded by the therapist to achieve specific clinical goals, maybe improving sensory integration, developing fine motor skills for handwriting, building hand-eye coordination, or practicing social turn-taking. It's purposeful, goal-directed. It's therapy through play.
Therapy through play. I like that frame. One more.
Myth 4. Occupational therapy only deals with physical problems, especially hands.
Right, sometimes called hand therapy.
Fact. While OTs certainly do specialize in hand therapy, the profession as a whole takes a deeply holistic approach. Therapists are trained to assess and address not just physical functions, but also cognitive abilities like memory, attention, problem solving, as well as psychological aspects. Mood, motivation, coping strategies, and social factors. For instance, with a stroke survivor, an OT might work on regaining hand function, yes, but they'll equally address any resulting memory decline that affects daily routines, or depression stemming from the significant life change, or difficulties reintegrating into social activities. They focus on the whole person functioning within their unique environment.
Holistic, person-centered, focused on meaningful activity. Those seem to be the key themes. Those clarifications are incredibly helpful. So shifting gears slightly for anyone listening who might be intrigued by this dynamic and frankly vital profession, what do the numbers say about career prospects? Especially comparing maybe the U.S. outlook with the situation for an occupational therapist in Taiwan.
Sure. The career outlook is generally quite positive, reflecting growing healthcare needs, especially with aging populations. In the U.S., for example, the Bureau of Labor Statistics projects about 11% job growth for OTs between 2023 and 2033. That's considered much faster than the average for all occupations. The demand is high. In terms of earnings, the median annual wage in the U.S. was reported around $98,340 in May 2024. And entry-level education there typically requires a master's degree or even a clinical doctorate in OTD.
Okay, strong growth and good prospects in the U.S. What about here in Taiwan?
In Taiwan, it's also recognized as a steadily growing and essential healthcare profession. In terms of salary, starting monthly pay for new graduates with a bachelor's degree is typically around NT $40,000. With, say, 5 to 7 years of experience, a senior therapist in a hospital setting might earn over NT $54,600 per month, plus benefits. Now, public hospitals offer stability and good benefits, but
Okay, clear pathways and growing demand here too. We've covered so much ground, traced the history, really grasped the core philosophy, explored the expanding frontiers of practice in Taiwan, and busted some common myths. As we bring this deep dive towards a close, what stands out to you personally as the single most profound value of this profession? What's the essence of it?
if I had to connect it all back to one core thing, I think the most profound value of OT truly lies in its unwavering focus on the whole person. Not just treating an isolated illness or specific impairment, but seeing the individual in the context of their life. Through occupation, through engaging people in those activities that define who they are and what matters to them, OT genuinely reconnects individuals with their lives, with their cherished roles, with their intrinsic sense of meaning and purpose. It bestows not just improved function, but ultimately quality of life and dignity. And I think in a world that's increasingly driven by technology, data, and purely quantifiable metrics, that deeply person-centered, humanistic philosophy of OT is exceptionally precious and maybe more vital than ever.
That deep focus on the individual's meaning and dignity in life. Yeah, that feels incredibly important, especially in healthcare. So, looking towards the future now, what do you see as the biggest opportunities ahead for occupational therapy and also the key challenges it faces, particularly here in the context of Taiwan?
Well, there are definitely significant opportunities on the horizon, driven by major societal trends. First, the aging society, as we've mentioned. OT is perfectly positioned to play an absolutely key, indispensable role in long-term care, supporting successful aging in place, providing specialized dementia care, developing programs to prevent frailty and falls. This is a massive area of need and growth globally, and especially acute in Taiwan.
A demographic imperative, really.
Absolutely. Second, emerging technologies. Things like virtual and augmented reality for rehabilitation, advancements in telehealth platforms, wearable sensors for monitoring activity, smart home technology. These are all revolutionizing how OT assessment and intervention can be delivered. They offer more engaging, immersive therapy options and help break down geographical barriers to access. And third, role expansion. We're seeing OTs continue to move beyond traditional hospital settings into communities, schools, corporations, even public health policy roles. They're increasingly becoming health promoters, disease preventers, accessibility consultants, ergonomic specialists, addressing health and participation issues at their source proactively.
So huge potential driven by demographics, tech, and expanding roles. But what about the flip side, the challenges, especially for Taiwan?
Despite the opportunities, some significant hurdles remain, particularly in the Taiwanese context. A major one we touched on is systemic limitations and reimbursement. The current national health insurance system, being largely disease treatment-oriented and hospital-centric, still makes it difficult for those vital, preventative, and supportive OT services out in the community and schools to receive stable, adequate financial support. Advocating for policy changes here is crucial for unlocking OT's full potential in those settings.
The funding structure needs to catch up with the community model.
Precisely. Another challenge is professional identity and public visibility. Despite its long history and the vital work OTs do, public understanding of the profession in Taiwan can still be somewhat vague. Its distinction from physical therapy, for instance, is often blurred in the public mind. Continuous public education and stronger professional advocacy are essential to boost OT's visibility and ensure people know when and how to seek the right kind of help. And finally, a deeper, more academic challenge is that of cultural adaptation and local theory innovation. As we discussed, many core OT theories originated in the West. A critical ongoing task for OT academics and practitioners in Taiwan, and indeed in other non-Western countries, is to continue the work of culturally translating, adapting, and perhaps even developing new assessment tools and practice models that truly resonate with the local Taiwanese family structures, cultural values, and societal norms. This ensures the profession not only survives, but truly thrives and takes deep, authentic root locally.
So, huge potential balanced by real challenges around funding, visibility, and cultural adaptation. That's a powerful and thought-provoking outlook for the future of OT in Taiwan. And this brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe ponder on your own. Reflecting on everything we've discussed, how might an occupational therapist help someone you know reconnect with something truly meaningful in their life? Something that goes far beyond just physical recovery, something that touches their identity and purpose. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.